right there! Stop! Stop! Get on the ground, both of you! Lay down on the ground! Lay down on the ground!
Around 8:30 p.m., January 18, 2016, La Quinta in Mesa, Arizona, a loud command echoed through the quiet hotel hallway. No sirens, no footsteps, just fear everywhere.
Who else is in the room?
Nobody.
Nobody else is in the room?
Nobody.
Are you positive?
Nobody. Absolutely positive.
Okay. Since apparently we have a failure for you to comprehend simple instructions, I'm going to go over some of them again, okay? Can you both hear and understand me?
Yes.
All right. If you make a mistake, another mistake, there's a very severe possibility you're both going to get. Do you understand that?
Yes.
I do.
Yes.
All right.
What the?
This is shut up.
Seconds later, still in the hotel's fifth-floor hallway, Daniel was still lying on the floor, shaking, trying to follow orders. But what he was faced with was not instructions, but a series of death warnings. This is no longer a police officer. This is a nerve-wracking test where a split-second mistake can cost a person their life. Daniel Shaver, 26, is a pest control worker from Texas. He is married with 2 young children and travels frequently for work. This time, his work took him to Mesa, where he checked into the La Quinta Inn and Suites for the night. In his luggage, Daniel carried an air gun, a specialized weapon used to kill birds or small animals at industrial sites. For him, it was just part of the job, but to outsiders, it could have taken on a deadly appearance. From the 5th floor of the hotel, someone saw Daniel holding the gun out the window, perhaps while he was checking or simply showing off his tools. But that action, combined with the sight of a young man in a strange room, made the front desk staff worried. Around 8 p.m., they called 911, reporting that a man was pointing a gun out of the hotel window. In the eyes of the first responders, this was a high-level emergency.
Hi, I'm with the La Quinta at 6530 East Superstition Springs Boulevard. And a couple of the guests that come to me, I'm an employee here, they come to me and they told me that somebody's pointing a rifle outside of one of the windows in our building.
Okay, and this is the 6530 East Superstition Springs Boulevard in Mesa?
Yes, it is.
Do we know what he's pointing it at? Do we know what he's pointing the gun at?
We're not sure. They're saying 4th floor.
Okay, one moment here.
That blue one right there?
An armed police unit, including Officer Philip Brailsford, was dispatched to the hotel within minutes. Without sirens, without fanfare, they approached the 5th-floor hallway tactically, with assault rifles, body armor, and chest cameras. Daniel still had no idea what was happening. He was in his room with a female friend, completely unaware that he had been labeled an armed threat.
Young man, you're not to move. You're to put your eyes down and look down at the carpet. You're to keep your fingers interlaced behind your head. You're to keep your feet crossed. If you move, we're going to consider that a threat, and we are going to deal with it, and you may not survive it. Do you understand me?
Yes, sir.
Young lady, shut up and listen.
No one asked what gun he carried. No one verified who he was. Just orders, shouts, and the tension building, enough to send a normal person into a state of panic.
Okay, young man, listen to my instructions and do not make a mistake. You are to keep your legs crossed. Do you understand me?
Yes, sir.
You are to put both of your hands palms down, straight out in front of you. Push yourself up to a kneeling position. I said keep your legs crossed!
I'm sorry.
Daniel was lying face down, his arms outstretched in front of him as ordered. He rose slowly, trembling, and obeyed. But as soon as he did, an officer shouted loudly, causing him to panic and apologize. In that moment, no one remembered that he was unarmed, only a drunken, desperate man in a storm of orders with no way out.
I didn't say this in conversation. Put your hand in the air! Hands up in the air! You do that again, we're Do you understand?
Please do not shoot me.
Then listen to my instructions.
I'm trying to just do what you
Don't talk! Listen! Hands straight up in the air. Do not put your hands down for any reason. You think you're going to fall, you better fall on your face. Your hands go back into the small of your back or down. We are going to shoot you. Do you understand me?
Yes, sir.
Daniel was on his knees, his hands raised, his pants hanging loosely because he was not wearing a belt. It was a life-or-death moment. If he reached for his belt to pull his pants up, his life would end.
Crawl towards me! Crawl towards me!
Pushpin Daniel tried to crawl, hands raised, head down, body shaking. But when his pants fell further, he unconsciously put his hands down to his hips. The fateful mistake had just happened. There was no final warning, no shout of "don't shoot." Brailsford pulled the trigger 5 times in quick succession. Daniel Shaver, unarmed, died at the scene.
Get up on him. Okay, hold on him. One with me.
A minute after the shot, officers rushed in, surrounding the body lying on the carpet. Some took defensive positions, others gestured to check the room. No one said the victim's name. No one bent down to see if he was breathing. In their eyes, Daniel was just a target that had been eliminated. A life had just ended and no one asked, "Are you okay?" Daniel Shaver lay collapsed in the middle of the hallway, one arm across his chest, his head turned to the side, his eyes wide open in unconsciousness. The smoke had not yet cleared, the smell of gunpowder still lingered in the cold air. But no one came to his rescue, no one called an ambulance. His death was a bureaucratic procedure, without panic, without grief. The officers walked over Daniel's body as if it were an obstacle. Some glanced, some remained absolutely silent. Black Shoes silently stepped into the fresh blood on the carpet, leaving temporary traces, but Daniel never got up again. Room 502, where Daniel had left less than 10 minutes ago, was now searched. On the table was a half-empty beer can. In the suitcase was an air gun, a tool for the job that had now become evidence in a murder. But no one asked, what did he use it for? No one asked, did it have real bullets? Because they didn't need an answer. They had real guns in their hands, and the decision had been made before he crawled in. 8:33 p.m., the hallway was blocked off with yellow tape. The police took up positions as if they were dealing with an armed attack, but no one spoke of the man who had just been killed, no condolences. No one questioned whether the shot had cost a life. 10 minutes later, an internal investigation team arrived. Cameras were turned on, sealed bags were prepared. Daniel was still lying there, face down, hands still open as if waiting for help, though it was too late. To them, he was now Exhibit 1A, lying still, motionless, anonymous in the internal files. 9:00 p.m., the hotel was sealed off. No press, no announcement, no public warning. But on the 5th floor, the senseless death of an unarmed man had been shaped and soon would be laid bare, frame by frame. Pushpin, he went to the hotel to stay the night. But he left in a body bag with the words "tactical risk situation" written on it. A death without a sigh, without a warning, without a way out. On the night of January 18, 2016, in the 5th floor hallway of the La Quinta Inn, Daniel Shaver's body was covered with a white sheet, and the crime scene investigation team moved like machines accustomed to blood and silence. No one asked questions. They just numbered the shell casings, took pictures of the shooting angles, measured the distance from the victim's hand to the wall, from his head to the gun in the suitcase. Everything was recorded, but no one asked why. Inside the room where Daniel had stayed, they found a compressed air gun, the kind used to shoot birds and rats in the warehouse. No real ammunition, no signs of a struggle. On the table were still work receipts, a technician's card, and an unopened bag of snacks. Everything left painted a portrait of an ordinary man with no criminal record, no intention of causing harm. But it was too late. The bullet that fired had labeled him dangerous before anyone had time to verify anything. Early morning, January 19, 2016, at the Mesa Police Department. The first report, hastily typed that night, was as cold steel. Subject engaged in threatening behavior, hands reaching for waistband during tactical situation. No mention of panic, no mention of crying, no description of the fact that Daniel was kneeling unarmed. In the hotel hallway, no one was taken into custody for investigation, no immediate review of the footage. Everything was presented as if the incident had been made perfectly clear. The police had responded according to procedure. And Daniel, the man who had fallen, had no chance to argue, no voice in any of the records that were kept. That same afternoon, in evidence room number 3, the hotel security camera footage was pulled. Some of it was blurry, some was obscured. But one thing was clear. Daniel Shaver was crawling toward the police, his hands raised, his gait unsteady. There was no lunge, there was nothing in his hands, there was no indication that he posed a threat. If someone had taken a closer look at the tape from the start, the conclusion might have been different. But in the conference room upstairs, the debate was focused on the question, should this video be released? No mention of justice. No thought of Daniel's parents in Texas, who still don't know how their son died. On January 20, 2016, the first headline on local television, police shoot man to death at Mesa Hotel. No name, no picture, no details, no video, a death reduced to 6 emotionless words. And from that moment on, only one truth existed: the story of the man who pulled the trigger. Until the Bodycam video hidden away on a locked hard drive was made public nearly 2 years later, unearthing everything they had tried to bury. 10/27/2017 Maricopa County Courthouse, Arizona. The trial officially begins. In a solemn courtroom where every breath is measured, former Officer Philip Brailsford sits on the witness stand. He is wearing a suit, his hair is neatly combed, his face expressionless. No longer in uniform, no longer with a gun, but still the man who once ended a life with 5 bullets.
So, Juror 2, Juror 11, we will see you at this time. Thank you very much for participating. I'm sorry for this.
You testified yesterday that you did not sleep for 72 hours after this incident. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think your memory was clearer after the event or after you hadn't slept for those 72 hours?
I did my best with what I was given.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
A man who just shot and killed someone hasn't slept for 3 days, still claims to remember every detail. But what he doesn't mention is the emotion.
Was your actual vision of what you're seeing a little bit different than the eyepiece?
Yes, so as we know, the camera is mounted on the bridge of my glasses to the right, so the camera is only going to be able to see whatever field of vision that the camera has, as wide as the lens goes. I still have, my left eye and my right eye, I can still see all of this other stuff going on. My field of view is much, much larger than 5.5 feet in this hallway.
He said he saw more than what the camera caught. But the video doesn't lie. Daniel Shaver wasn't holding a weapon, wasn't attacking, was just crawling and crying. While Brailsford insisted that his vision was larger than what the cameras captured, the prosecution brought in an expert to challenge the definition of threat. Timothy Williams, who has spent more than 30 years in the investigative field, took the stand, offering a perspective that was completely at odds with the defense's argument.
Thank you, Judge. So you were explaining the concept of an imminent threat without using that SWAT negotiation, if you could.
Sure. If a person has a gun and you have that all the time in the field, not all the time, but a lot of times. If you see a person with a gun in their hand and it's a threat but not an imminent threat, you'll be shooting people that you ought not to be shooting. That's why you train. When you see that, you train, tell the person, drop the gun, drop the gun. Give a person a chance to comply to the commands. A lot of time, it's been my experience when I was out there in the field, the person dropped the gun. And again, it's a tool that is used. Now if it becomes an imminent threat, then you have the tools to use to stop that threat. And it may end up with less lethal, or it may end up with deadly force.
A veteran police expert stood up and made it clear, seeing a gun does not necessarily mean you are allowed to shoot. Especially here, Daniel did not even have a gun. In court, as the Bodycam footage played back on a large screen, forensic expert Timothy T. Williams Jr. quietly watched each frame. He didn't just look at the action, he read the psychology behind each gesture. Not everyone can tell the difference between an armed man who is trying to resist and a drunk man who is panicking and trying to comply.
When you watched the video the first time, what was the first thing, if anything, that you noticed about it?
Well, the first thing I noticed was a couple things. When the decedent came out of the room, I noticed that it appeared to me that he was appeared to be inebriated. The second thing I noticed that his pants were very low, below his knees, and so these are things that I noticed as they came out. And the reason why that's important, because certain things transpired after by commands by Sergeant Langley that he was doing, and that was important as to what additional observations that could be made as the situation continue.
A drunk person, not understanding clear orders, panicking and trying to do the right thing. That is not an excuse to kill, that is an excuse to prevent tragedy.
What was it about, you called him the decedent, but what was it about Mr. Shaver that made you believe that he was inebriated as soon as he came out of the room?
And again, it's my background education experience. I've seen a lot of this before, and doing this up and going on 44 years. I think I have a little expertise in that area. It's just the coordination wasn't as sharp as a person who was not under the influence or inebriated. And when he was even doing what he was asked to do, it was he was responding, but it wasn't as though a person that was sober doing it.
Nearly 2 years after Daniel Shaver's death, the trial of former Officer Philip Brailsford officially opened in Arizona on December 7, 2017. The prosecution called it a shooting of an unarmed man under unjustifiable circumstances. The Bodycam video was played to the jury, the first time it was shown in full in a scene that the defense described as hard to watch a second time. In the video, Daniel can be seen crawling on the floor, shaking, crying and repeatedly saying, "Please don't shoot me." He was not holding a weapon, but the defense didn't argue that. They didn't need to. Their strategy was a familiar one, split-second decisions. The defense called in experts. They talked about perception of threat, reactive psychology, and tactical contingency. According to them, Brailsford was just following his training, seeing a vague gesture in a narrow hallway and acting to protect his teammates. No one has proven that Daniel posed a threat, but they don't need it. In courtroom logic, if the shooter believes there is a risk of being killed, they are allowed to shoot first. Pushpin, a man is killed while kneeling, unarmed, in a state of panic, but the debate is whether the shooter felt right. By the afternoon of December 8, 2017, the jury took 6 hours to reach a verdict: acquittal, not guilty of murder, not guilty of manslaughter, not guilty of civil liability. Nothing. Philip Brailsford left the courtroom a free man. He didn't bow his head, he didn't apologize. Meanwhile, Lainey Sweet, Daniel's wife, stood there stunned. Her 2 children would grow up with a photo instead of a father. The judge bowed his head slightly. No one handcuffed Brailsford. No more questions were asked of the victim. Pushpin, the only person who had no defense, no explanation, no say, was Daniel. A few days after the trial, Lainey Sweet, Daniel's wife, stood before a series of media cameras. In her arms were 2 children too young to understand that their father would never return. Her voice trembled as she spoke to dozens of reporters. He was just working, just staying one night, and then he never came back. No tears, no anger, just a stark truth that sent chills down the spine of the entire United States. In 2018, the shooter Philip Brailsford was not only not punished, but was also allowed to temporarily reinstate for just a few weeks, enough time to apply for retirement and receive a full pension package for life. The reason? Post-mission trauma. Meanwhile, Daniel's family had to launch crowdfunding campaigns to pay for legal fees and take the case to civil court. That contrast reveals a bitter truth. The one who caused the loss gets compensation, while the one who lost everything has nothing left to hold on to. Since 2019, Lainey has not stopped. She has made public the Bodycam video that the court had previously hidden. The clip is only a few minutes long, but it immediately shocked public opinion. Millions of viewers, thousands of angry comments. An unarmed man, kneeling, crying, and begging, was shot dead as if he had no other choice. But despite the wave of protests, no one was convicted. No one was held accountable. And Daniel Shaver, a father, an American citizen, is still just a name in the internal minutes. You can spend your whole life with someone without knowing what they are hiding, but what is scarier is living in a society where the one holding the gun is not the one paying the price. Pushpin, justice is not a sentence. Justice is when the truth is heard not through a badge, not through a record, but through the conscience of each person.